Aloha and good afternoon. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the HNN Digital Center. We are bringing to you this live stream here. City and state officials are preparing for a news conference to discuss some traffic safety here on Oahu's roads in light of a string of deadly incidents. There was another fatal crash earlier this morning that happened in Wahiawa. This is some images from the scene right here as we await this press conference to happen. It's going to start any minute soon, so I'll bring you guys there once that begins. But to tell you a little bit more about this crash that happened in Wahiawa, a 70-year-old man died after crashing his vehicle into a pole in the Wahiawa area on Wednesday. It happened around 5:30 this morning. Now, police said the man was driving westbound on California Avenue when he veered right, and that's when he slammed into that pole. Now, police are still working to piece together exactly what happened, but they say it does not appear that speed, drugs, or alcohol were contributing factors, and it marked the 11th traffic death on Oahu this year compared to 9 around the same time last year. And so all of these incidents are coming together to elevate some concerns for city and state officials. And once again, a live look outside there. They are still getting their microphones, the podium all set. But this joint news conference is going to feature Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, along with some of the state leaders that you see there. House Speaker Representative Scott Saiki, along with some other senators and representatives. So we are again standing by and will take you there live once that begins. This is also coming on the heels of the tragic and heartbreaking hit and run outside of McKinley High School that happened just a few days ago. It left a young teenager dead, and the suspect in that case, Mitchell Miyashiro, eventually came forward and turned himself over to police. And we did some digging into his record and found that he had a lengthy list of traffic violations. Some images from the scene here. Again, this happened right when she was on her way to school, and her death has gripped the community so far. A memorial has been set up near the site of that crash there to memorialize the young life lost there. Again, Sarah Yara. We're also told that her mother is there at this press conference that is happening. It looks like officials are just about getting underway. Let's go ahead and listen in here live.
Thank you for attending today's press conference. I will introduce each speaker before they come to the mic. We will also have Q&A available at the end. First, I'd like to hand the mic over to Speaker Saiki.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. This, as you know, is a very sad day for all of us, and we would like to give our deepest condolences to Sarah's family, and her mother is here today, for this really senseless loss that we are all experiencing. We also want to give our condolences to Sarah's friends, her classmates, and the entire McKinley High School community that I know has been grieving for the past week. This incident has shown us that we must do more to protect our students and pedestrians. And this incident has also shown us that simply having a crosswalk is not always enough to protect people. In congested areas like this, we need to do more to slow down drivers and make our roads safer. We'd like to thank some of our partners who are here today from the State Department of Transportation, as well as from the City Department of Transportation Services. We met with them last Friday morning, and during a 30-minute meeting, they agreed upon a plan of action that we can begin to implement in this community. And I want to give a shout out to our Director of Transportation from the state, Ed Sniffen, and the City Director of Transportation Services, Roger Morton, for all of their work on this action plan. I want to briefly just summarize what has been agreed upon, and the directors can give more detail. But on the state side, the State Department of Transportation will install at least 2 elevated pedestrian crosswalks on Pensacola Street between King Street and Kapiolani Boulevard. And these crosswalks will be similar to those that you see on the Poly Highway. They're elevated and they're meant to slow down drivers. The state will also make a couple of improvements at the Kamakee Kapiolani Boulevard intersection. There will be a new elevated crosswalk at that intersection, and the state will also be installing a red light camera at that intersection. And the state plans to implement these improvements within the next 30 days. I want to thank the state for its work, Director Sniffen for his commitment to making these improvements. And the city will also begin an engineering study to determine how to place left turn signals at the Kamakee Kapiolani Boulevard intersection. So I want to thank the Mayor and Director Morton from DTS for their action in this area as well. I want to say that the level of cooperation between the state and the city is somewhat unprecedented for the time that is the short amount of time that it has taken for them to decide on how to make our roads in this area safer. And we really want to thank them for all of their work and commitment. And on behalf of my colleagues who are here, we would like to reiterate our call to the public and to drivers. Please be responsible. Please slow down. Please follow our traffic laws. As we have seen here, innocent people will pay the price for our failure to do so. So thank you, and I'd like to next introduce Mayor Blangiardi.
Well, thank you, Speaker Psyche, and I want to echo what the Speaker just said about this being a sad moment. Had an opportunity to meet Sarah's mom, to offer my condolences. It's a shame that an incident like this has to happen, if you will, to galvanize us into this. But the fact of the matter is, we have 8,000 streets on this island, and every one of them can become a hazard if the people who get behind the wheel don't understand the responsibility that they own each and every time you get behind that wheel. You know, we all drive, we drive casually, we get in there, whatever, but each and every time there's that possibility that we could either hurt somebody or certainly hurt ourselves. And so that awareness is what it has to be. You know, we have, in so many ways, so many good records about what we get done here in Hawaii, but for a long time, we've been plagued by vehicular accidents and pedestrian safety and pedestrian accidents, and those accidents that kill beyond that what our numbers should be. So this is very sad, but I think you're going to hear from some really good people. That's the reason why you're here today. I'm just here to remind everybody, you have to own the responsibility. Be patient when you drive. Be courteous. That's who we are as a people. It's been said over and over again, drive with aloha, but drive with awareness, you know, and that is really the best we can do. I feel encouraged, though, and I want Ed to get up here and Roger to hear, so you can hear specifically about what we're going to get done. We'll do the best we can. There are a lot of streets out there. There are a lot of people on the road. If you drive, realize what you own in the way of responsibility. Be mindful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we will have Senator Sharon Moriwaki say a few words.
Thank you again. Real deep condolences to Sarah and family, her mom. I know we were here on Sunday for a rally, which brought a lot of community people together. And I think Sarah's mom said, you know, she wants justice for Sarah's untimely death. So I think for all of us, bringing together the state and the city and seeing how quickly they came together to make some corrections to how we drive. But ultimately, we see through Sarah's death, speed kills. And we have to understand that all of us have a responsibility to make sure that we drive safely, drive carefully, drive with the thought of Sarah and others who have died because of these untimely deaths. So I do want to, again, reiterate what everybody else said. But you can see what came about with the city and state coming together to make some corrective action, but that's a little too late. So all of us need to drive carefully and drive with the thought of preventing any death. One death is way too many. So thank you all for coming and all for your support.
Next, we will have Representative Scott Nishimoto say a few words.
Thank you. This is for sure the toughest part of the job, being a public servant, trying to make sense of the senseless. I had a chance to speak to Sarah's mom a couple minutes ago, and she said that she wants to make sure that her daughter's accident and this tragedy is not in vain, and that we make real changes from it. And I know I'll be joined by the rest of the elected officials here in telling you that this will only be the start of the changes we'll make. And I really do believe that this is something that needs to be done not just in McKinley, but at all schools around the state to make sure it's safe.
Next, we have Representative Della Albalati.
I just wanted to echo my thanks and mahalo to the state and city leaders who jumped to action to address this senseless tragedy and to find solutions. I also wanted just secondly to say to Chevy, as one McKinley mother to another, that when this news occurred and when this tragedy happened, there was a ripple effect through the hearts of the students and the ohana of McKinley. And that your daughter, Rain, as she was so fondly known by so many of her classmates, will live on and her legacy will live on. And that the sustained effort that's going to be needed to ensure that all of these changes happen will be there. And it's going to be through the students who knew your daughter that we will also be able to continue her legacy. So condolences from my ohana to yours and from all of the House of Representatives.
Next, we will have City Council Member Tyler Dos Santos Tam.
Aloha, everyone. I am gratified to see the state and the city coming together to respond to this. And as Rep. Nishimoto mentioned, this is an opportunity not just to improve the situation around McKinley High School, but at schools throughout the district. And as the chair of the Council's Transportation Committee, I want to work with the administration and the state to implement the Oahu pedestrian plan, to make sure that we're using the safe routes to school funding that's available to us, and to work with communities to identify other dangerous areas so this doesn't happen again. This kind of collaboration needs to be sustained, and we're willing to do our part because no family deserves to go through this. We want to make sure that, again, every street is safe for our pedestrians, whether they're students, whether they're kupuna. Everyone deserves to be safe. So thank you.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this press conference up, but would the McKinley High School principal like to come up real quick and say a few words? I'm not sure where he was. Okay. If anything, we can begin the Q&A portion, and I know we have representatives from DTS and DOT here, and we have the legislators behind us, so feel free to start with your questions.
I have a question for the mayor. Mr. Mayor, when you were general manager at Hawaii News Now, you did a segment where you addressed some of the concerns about raised pedestrian crosswalks. The biggest issue people have with them is it might slow down traffic flow. In that segment, you said, the benefits way outweigh those concerns. Now as mayor, has that mindset been strengthened?
Well, I think this event has brought that to the forefront. Absolutely. There's been a lot of research done. In fact, recently up on the Poly, it's been very effective at not only slowing down traffic, or actually getting people to drive at speed limit, because you can drive effectively over one of these bumps at 35 miles an hour. But absent that speed bump, people are going 50, 55 miles an hour. So yeah, I think in appropriate places. Look, handling our streets is a major challenge. As I said earlier, there are 8,000 streets on this island alone. Every one of those is a pathway for a potential accident, vehicular accident, or somebody getting killed or hurt badly. So, we can't put speed bumps everywhere, but we want to be strategic. We want to be smart. We know that they're effective. And it's just all part of, I think, where we have to do it, where it makes the most sense, because we just can't instantly put them everywhere. But this situation here in this school zone, on a thoroughfare like Kapiolani Boulevard, this makes all the sense in the world.
I have a question for DOT Senator Ed. information about what the process is going to be like to install these elevated pedestrian crosswalks?
Absolutely. Well, first, I want to make sure that I thank our elected officials for getting us all together, and Speaker Psyche for making sure that the state and the city got together very early on to get these improvements going. So for us, the raised crosswalks, whenever we put them in on city jurisdiction, we work directly with Rogers staff. In general, it takes us about 3 weeks to get our contractor on board and our design set up to ensure we can move forward on it. With the urging of Speaker Psyche, we're going to accelerate that as much as possible. But within a 2-week time frame, we'll be able to start up on raised crosswalks or speed humps, whatever looks the best in those areas, immediately.
And then we heard the city was going to do some, DOT was going to do some, or DOT is going to do all of it?
We'll work it out with the city. We like to assist wherever we can. If the city can move as quickly as us, we're happy. They're going to move forward as well. But if we can do it faster, we'd love to just get them all done.
So total of how many?
So looking at 2 on Pensacola, as Speaker had talked about, and 2 on Kapiolani.
Question for Speaker Psyche. So, you know, we're learning more about the suspect who turned himself in Sarah Yar's incident. Chevy, one of the questions she had was, where can we work on a bill or law to find people or get people like that off the street, because he did have an extensive traffic record?
Yeah, so my understanding is that the driver who was involved in this situation had dozens of traffic offenses, including citations for driving without a license. And this person did make appearances in district court and paid a fine for those citations. To my knowledge, he was not sent to jail for that. The current Hawaii law does include a provision, a statute, that does apply to a situation where someone is cited a second time for driving without a license. If they're caught a second time, then the offense is a misdemeanor, which could impose a financial penalty or jail time up to a year in jail. You know, I'm going to be following up with the prosecutor's office as well as with the judiciary to see what happened in this case, because if this person was in fact cited dozens and dozens of times, then something should have been done about it earlier. I'm not sure why the prosecutor's office did not pursue jail time for this driver. If the prosecutors had pursued jail time, I'm not sure why the district court didn't send this person to jail. And even if there were plea agreements in place, the judge could have overlooked that and sent this person to jail after reviewing the driver's record. So this is a really, this is a wake-up call for all of us, for all of the agencies that are involved, including the prosecutor's office and the judiciary. I think that there may have been some breakdowns at those levels as well, but we'll be making an inquiry with them.
Any other questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
do you have any information on the whole prosecution side of things? Do you have any idea why someone have?
Well, I don't have any information specifically on this case, and I don't think it would be appropriate right now. As Speaker said, I think it was more than dozens. I believe it was 167 different violations of some sort, which is prohibitive when you think about it. It's one of the areas that we're really asking for a crackdown with respect to not only our prosecutor's office, our chief of police, and for that matter, working collaboratively with the judiciary for better enforcement of that. We have in some of our hotspots on different criminal activities people with similar rap sheets like that are still out on the street, which for me is very bothersome. So, I am about enforcement, especially in cases like this. It's one thing to talk about it after the fact, but that's just the problem. You don't want to have to talk about it and say, how could somebody with 167 violations be out there driving a car, in this case, or for that matter, down in Waikiki or Chinatown, where people with rap sheets with some 250 misdemeanors, combined felonies, and even prison time are out there on our streets, wreaking havoc, if you will, to a potential innocent public. So that's one of the things that we hope to be able to really crack down on. This is just tragic. This is just an absolute tragedy, and I'm so sorry again to Sarah's mom, for what's happened here. But if it's brought us together and for the good and the legacy of your daughter and the future of this place, and we get these 4 speed bumps here and anything else we can do, but I really do want to go at the heart of the criminal behavior, and this is criminal behavior that's out there, doing stuff that just flagrantly disregards the law, and it's okay for them to do that. That's not how it works, and that's not how I want to see it work. Okay?
Just to help develop that, are you planning on talking to the prosecutor's office?
Yeah, I do. Well, we have ongoing conversations, but I have a scheduled meeting coming up. Chief Logan and I met today on sensitive places. We both testified in the council. That's a whole other issue. But we have ongoing conversations about this. Is that criminal element that lurks out there, and represents a danger to everybody. And so we want to do something about that. And that's what we intend to do. And I'm on record of saying that. I'm not tolerant of that stuff. Okay?
Just one more follow-up. So you said there are other people with long rap sheets. It doesn't sound like you're just talking about traffic.
No, I'm not just talking about traffic. I'm talking about people in our criminal hotspots in Chinatown, Waikiki, elsewhere that have been arrested numerous times or have been given misdemeanors, have gotten literally a wrist slap, or maybe now at least getting geo restrictions from the judiciary, but can we enforce that? It's about enforcement. I've made it really clear. It's part of the reason why I'm so supportive of our police department, because we need them first and foremost to protect and serve, and that's who we want doing the enforcement. But we also need to have the backup with the prosecutor's office, and we also have to have an understanding that we just don't want to give wrist slaps to situations there that potentially represent real danger on a going forward basis. So I'd like to deal with things systemically, and that's one of the issues that we're concerned about. And this has just brought this particular situation to the forefront. Okay? Thank you.
Another question for Roger. We gotta get you in. I know on, I believe it was Thursday, this DTS sent a statement out saying they were evaluating possible solutions for that area. In that evaluation, was one of the things factored was, that's a busy area. Were you looking at, how those raised crosswalks could affect traffic flow?
Well, we're looking at a number of things, including speed humps and raised crosswalks. We even looked at raised intersections, which is a new concept. We've come up with a number of different ideas too. We're going to do some studies. We're going to reevaluate our contraflow lane, both in the morning, primarily in the morning. Our folks don't, at first blush, they don't think that it really provides much after Pensacola. So that removing that might be one of the things we're going to do. We're totally in lockstep with the state on the red light cams. We understand those are going in really fast. We're going to be installing some new signage, designating, just bringing to the attention that it is a school zone and the larger school zone type things. If we put in speed humps, we will be reducing the speed limit to 25. Right now it's 25 during school hours. If we put in speed humps, we'll just lower the speed. And frankly, I've asked my folks to look at the entire Kapi'olani Boulevard, which is a 35-mile-an-hour speed zone right now, to see if it makes sense to do that. We'll do traffic studies and we'll do a technical analysis for that. When my staff heard of Sarah's death, you could just feel the mourning in our office. But I need to say that last year, we're averaging 1 fatality per week on Oahu, and that's too high. People have to slow down. People have to drive responsibly. Sarah's death is a tragedy, but so are the other 51 people last year that were involved in a fatality in a traffic accident. So that's I think our joint mission for both city and state is to really address pedestrian safety and just drive these numbers down.
So it's still being figured out if we're doing the bump or the crosswalk?
Yeah, we still are looking at that. But I think Ed and I talked about the humps, and we're open to looking at all of those. But I don't want to get into a protracted technical study on that. We've committed that we're going to do this in a few weeks. We're not going to do it. We're not going to wait for months and months while we do study. We're committed to working with Ed on that project now.
So, just on record, the city has formally asked DOT.
Well, on a record, we haven't formally asked, but we are in the process of making that happen. Right. I think Ed has asked us for some roadway plans and some other things. And we do need to go through that to figure out. I think our staff has a preliminary idea of where we would put humps, but we're going to validate that pretty quickly. We had our staff out here the last few days doing pedestrian counts and just looking around at the situation.
Any idea on cost?
Costs are not really factoring into what we're talking about. Ed has an ongoing contract that has already been procured that allows him to put things, and we're very pleased that he's offered us the opportunity to take advantage of that so we can get this done quickly rather than waiting for us to budget and for us to procure and to do those steps.
So the school, near the school, there's also
Pensacola
and King Street. Is there any work being planned for those streets, or is that not seen as?
Well, we did some things on Pensacola already, and we're open to looking at any improvements that we could make on that. On Kapiolani Boulevard, we are close to probably having a resurfacing project there, a minor resurfacing project, but not too far after that, we're going to do a major rehabilitation of Kapiolani Boulevard. And for us, on big lift type of things, that's when we can really look at making improvements, because when we pave over, all the lines are gone throughout the street, and that's the time for us to make further improvements in those areas. But our staff will be looking at those two streets that you mentioned as well. It's all the streets. We do have a pedestrian safety plan. We can't do everything at one time, but we have a roadmap for the next few years to try to improve pedestrian safety and basically safety for automobiles as well, for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to offer one thing if I can, because I don't think anybody will say it on their behalf. But between Ed Stiffen and Roger Morton, we're really blessed to have two men who really understand this. All we've asked them to do is make sure we understand the problem fully. It's a basic management principle of ours before we actually offer the solutions. And that's what they're in the process of doing. So we don't do some kind of a knee-jerk. It turns out not to be the right thing. Okay? And so I also want to close in saying, no matter what we do to the streets, I want to reiterate this message. It's the drivers who cause this to happen. People have to be mindful of that. Okay? You get behind a wheel, you own a huge responsibility. Thank you.
If Chevy wants to, do you want us to? No.
Everybody covered everything that
Well, it looks like they're in the final moments of this press conference here. Once again, you heard from city and state leaders regarding traffic safety. Yeah, it looks like they're wrapping up here. One more live look. Again, we have our team there gathering more details and information, and they will bring the story to you in our later editions of Hawaii News Now. But once again, you heard from city leaders and state leaders, including Mayor Rick Blangiardi, who was very passionate about letting drivers know it is a shared responsibility to keep Hawaii's roads safe. Again, this is all in light of the tragedy that happened outside of McKinley High School that left a young teenage girl dead, Sarah Yara. A memorial there is now in place at the site of the accident there. Some things the elected leaders mentioned is that the city and state are partnering to quickly install at least 2 elevated crosswalks on Pensacola or along Kapiolani Boulevard, one of them near Pensacola and King, and the other happening at Kamakee and Kapiolani. At Kamakee and Kapiolani, not only is there a an elevated crosswalk going up, but there is also a red light camera that they are planning to install. And all of this will be taking place within the next 30 days. So again, officials here are really stressing that safety is a shared responsibility between drivers and pedestrians alike. And that's going to do it for us here on this extended stream. Again, tune in to later editions of Hawaii News Now, starting with First at 4 on KHNL. We will have the full details of this story along with other top news from around Hawaii. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here from the H&N Digital Center.